NOAA issued a storm warning for tonight, but the warning most people saw is only half the story. The same system battering California is triggering something else right now, in a completely different part of the country. Here's what NOAA confirmed in the last 24 hours, and what didn't make the headline. The National Weather Service issued a winter storm watch for the Sierra Nevada. It runs from Tuesday morning through Wednesday evening. The Weather Prediction Center confirmed it Sunday afternoon. But buried in the same forecast, 2 lines down, was a second alert. The NWS said it directly on its national homepage. Gusty winds and dry conditions are bringing elevated to critical fire weather conditions to the southern plains and southeast this week. One system. 2 completely different disasters. Opposite ends of the country. For Sacramento and Reno, mountain passes could close by Tuesday night. For Dallas and Charlotte, wildfire conditions are active right now. The National Interagency Fire Center reported in its April 2026 outlook that more than 56% of the country was in drought as of late March, and the setup this week is something forecasters have been dreading all spring. Here's exactly how this storm developed. A well-defined upper-level low formed over the eastern Pacific. NOAA's Weather Prediction Center began tracking it late last week. Today, that low is making its move. By early Tuesday morning, tonight into tomorrow, the first wave of moisture hits the northern Sierra Nevada. Snow levels start near 7,000 feet. That sounds manageable. Most drivers crossing the passes Monday won't notice a thing. But here's where it gets strange. The Weather Prediction Center's Sunday evening forecast discussion laid out what happens next. By Tuesday night, the core of the upper low pushes directly inland over California. Snow levels crash. They drop below pass level, below lake level. Every major route across the Sierra is suddenly in play. Donner Pass, the 7,227-foot summit that Interstate 80 crosses, enters conditions the WPC describes as very difficult to impossible. The Weather Prediction Center confirmed this in its forecast. Greater than 70% probability of at least 12 inches of snow at the highest Sierra terrain in a single 24-hour period ending Wednesday morning. 70%. That is not a worst-case estimate. That is the likely outcome. For Interstate 80 and Route 50, the 2 passes millions of Californians use, the WPC puts the odds of 12 or more inches at 30 to 40%. Coin flip odds of a full highway closure. And these passes do close. 8 days ago, the Sierra storm of April 10th through 13 brought winds of up to 90 miles per hour along the Sierra crest. Interstate 80 shut down in both directions due to spinouts on Donner Summit. The National Weather Service Lake Tahoe office confirmed it. This week's setup is nearly identical. Now, flip the map. On the other side of the country, right now this morning, a completely different crisis is building. Gusty winds, bone-dry air, temperatures running 20 to 30 degrees above normal across the central U.S. through Wednesday. That's the Weather Prediction Center's own extended forecast. The National Weather Service posted it at the top of its national homepage. Gusty winds and dry conditions will continue to bring elevated to critical fire weather conditions to the southern plains and southeast early this week. You can go read it yourself at weather.gov right now. Here's what elevated to critical fire weather actually means. Humidity drops into the teens, sometimes single digits. Winds sustain at 15 to 25 miles per hour with higher gusts. A single spark, a downed power line, dry grass from a tire, becomes a fire that outruns evacuations. And that wasn't even the worst part. The National Interagency Fire Center's Spring 2026 Outlook, released in April, flagged above normal significant fire potential for South Texas, the High Plains, and the Southeast through at least May. More than 56% of the country was already in drought going into this week. In March alone, one fire in the Nebraska Panhandle, the Morill Fire, burned over 600,000 acres in 48 hours. Most of that burned in the first 10 hours. Watch what happens when you connect those 2 events, the Sierra snow and the Southeast fire threat, to the same Pacific trough moving across the country right now. Let's name the places. In California, the highest risk corridor runs along Interstate 80 between Sacramento and Reno. Chain controls on I-80 are already activating today. The NWS Lake Tahoe office issued a lake wind advisory this morning, ridge gusts already hitting 50 miles per hour. That is before the main event arrives. After Tuesday night, travel over Donner Summit becomes what the NWS calls very difficult to impossible. Anyone planning to cross the Sierra after Tuesday evening should move that trip to today. There is no safe window Wednesday morning. Highway 50 through South Lake Tahoe faces the same sequence. Highway 395 along the eastern Sierra will see gusts up to 55 miles per hour. Now shift east. The National Weather Service fire weather threat runs from eastern New Mexico through Texas and into the Carolinas. The highest risk corridor covers the southern high plains, including Amarillo and Lubbock, Texas, where humidity is expected to drop into the teens with sustained winds of 15 to 25 miles per hour. The Storm Prediction Center monitors this zone for red flag warnings. A red flag warning is the official signal. Conditions are ready for a fast-moving fire. For someone in Dallas, in Charlotte, in Houston, the alert is real. It just didn't make tonight's top story. Here's why this matters beyond today. This is not two random events sharing a calendar date. This is one atmospheric pattern, one Pacific trough, producing simultaneous disasters on opposite coasts. Here's how it works. A deep upper-level low approaches from the Pacific. On its western and northern flank, it pulls cold air and moisture down over California. That creates the snow. On its eastern and southern flank, the same low forces warm, dry air northward over Texas and the south. That air arrives hot and gusty. That creates the fire weather. Some meteorologists describe this as the seesaw effect of Pacific troughs during spring. It is not unusual in isolation. What makes it dangerous in 2026 is the context sitting underneath it. Context 1. March 2026 was California's warmest and driest month on record. The snowpack going into this storm was severely depleted. This week's snow adds to the pack, but does not erase the deficit. Context 2. The National Interagency Fire Center put the spring 2026 fire outlook at above normal significant potential for the high plains and southeast. That assessment came before this week's fire weather setup. The Morrill Fire, 600,000 acres in 48 hours, is the baseline for what active conditions look like right now. Context 3. The Weather Prediction Center confirmed that temperatures across the central U.S. will run 20 to 30 degrees above normal ahead of this system Wednesday. That anomaly, on top of drought, on top of wind, is precisely what turns elevated fire weather into critical fire weather. Here's the number that connects all three. NOAA's own data for April 2026 shows drought, above normal heat, and active Pacific trough patterns converging simultaneously. That is not a coincidence. It is the pattern forecasters warned about when they issued the spring fire outlook in early April. When you see a headline tonight that says, Sierra storm warning issued, that is true. But the same pressure system generating that warning is also setting the table for the fire crews getting up early in Amarillo right now. Here is the 72-hour timeline and 3 specific things to watch. Tonight through Tuesday morning, first wave. Moisture reaches the northern Sierra, snow levels near 7,000 feet. I-80 chain controls activate. This is the quiet period. Tuesday morning through Tuesday night, the main event. The upper low pushes inland. Snow levels crash. The winter storm watch kicks in at 5 a.m. Tuesday and runs through 5 p.m. Wednesday. This is the window where conditions deteriorate fast. Now here are the 3 things to watch. 1. I-80 and Highway 50 closure status. Chain controls go up first. Full closure follows when spin-out reports hit Donner Summit. Check Caltrans in real time at roads.ca.gov. The April 13th storm closed I-80 in both directions. This setup is comparable. 2. Storm Prediction Center fire weather products. If a red flag warning gets posted for the southern high plains or the southeast, that is not background noise. That is the official threshold being crossed. The SPC posts these at spc.noaa.gov. 3. WPC snowfall updates Tuesday evening. Forecasters flagged that the position of the upper low determines how long the heaviest snow sits over the Sierra. If that low slows, totals climb past current forecasts. Tuesday evening is the update that tells you which scenario you're in. If the upper low stalls over California, a scenario the WPC identified as possible, then snowfall rates could hit 2 to 3 inches per hour at pass level overnight Wednesday. That is the rate that closed I-80 during the April 10 to 13 event. Highway shutdowns would follow within hours. If the system moves through faster than modeled, then snow totals stay at the lower end of the range. Passes stay open with chain controls. Fire weather in the southeast peaks Tuesday and Wednesday, and then eases when the cold front finally drops into the southern plains by Friday. confirmed in the WPC extended discussion. But until Friday, 3 full days, the southeast and high plains remain exposed. 3 things to take from this. 1. NOAA's storm warning tonight is about Sierra snow. But the National Weather Service also confirmed elevated to critical fire weather conditions across the southern plains and southeast this week from the same system. 2. The Sierra window closes Tuesday night. I-80 and Highway 50 face 30 to 40% odds of a 12-inch plus day on Wednesday. If you need to cross, today. 3. Context changes everything. March 2026 was California's warmest and driest month on record. More than half the country is in drought right now. This storm does not reset that. If you want to stay ahead of what's actually happening before it leads the news, subscribe. I post every time something major develops. Coming next, the Muriel fire burned 600,000 acres in 48 hours in Nebraska last month, starting under conditions nearly identical to what the southern plains are seeing tonight. That video is on the screen right now. If you want to understand how a fire moves that fast and what the 2026 spring outlook actually means for your region, you need to see it. Stay safe.